guards stood frozen. Something was wrong with the human. Captain Reed was supposed to be afraid. He was alone, surrounded by enemy soldiers, weaponless and locked inside a steel chamber on a starship millions of miles from Earth. But he wasn't begging. He wasn't sweating. He was smiling. The alien commander stepped forward, confused. "Why are you calm, human?" Reed didn't answer. His eyes narrowed. His breathing slowed. And then, just as a plasma blade moved near his throat, he moved. In a blink, the nearest guard was on the floor, gasping for air. Another alien flew backward, crashing into the metal wall. Alarms blared. Lights flashed red, but it was already too late. The human didn't run. He stood tall, his body calm, his hands steady, his heartbeat controlled. "What is he?" One alien whispered, crawling back. From behind the security glass, the ship's lead scientist stared at the screen. He zoomed into the human's vitals. Spikes in muscle activity, neurochemical floods. "This isn't fear," the scientist said. "It's a combat switch, and we just turned it on. No one realized it yet." But the hunt had begun. The alien science bay was silent. All eyes were on the screen. Captain Reed lay unconscious on the medical table, restrained by thick energy bands. But even unconscious, his body wasn't resting. It was preparing. Dr. Kaur, the ship's lead biologist, examined Reed's blood under a scanner. Her eyes widened. "There's a chemical surge I've never seen," she muttered. "Cortisol, adrenaline. But more than that, something new. Something designed for instant war." The alien commander stepped beside her. "Explain." Kaur zoomed in. His body released multiple combat chemicals the moment he was threatened. Not slowly, instantly, as if he was built for it. Another scientist stepped forward. "But his kind, humans, they're not top-tier predators." "No," Kaur replied. "They're worse. They're survivors. That's more dangerous." Footage from the security cam replayed. Reed moving faster than their cameras, bones bending but not breaking, muscles tightening with unnatural precision. "He didn't train for that," Kaur whispered. "His body just knew." The commander leaned closer to the screen, watching Reed breathe, slowly waking up again. "Then we made a mistake," he said coldly. "We thought he was weak when threatened." Kaur nodded. "He's not weak. He's activated." Suddenly, Reed's eyes opened, and this time he wasn't going to wait for them to make the first move. Captain Reed sat still, hands bound to the surgical slab. His eyes scanned the room. 3 guards, 2 unarmed scientists, 1 sealed exit. No weapons, no help. Perfect. The restraints holding him cracked slightly with each breath. Not from strength, but from tension, from pressure. His muscles had become wires, tight, coiled, ready to strike. One of the guards turned away. A mistake. In half a second, Reed snapped the armrest free. The sharp edge cut through the nearest guard's belt. Reed grabbed the alien's weapon mid-air before it even hit the ground and fired 1 stunbolt, 1 alien down. The second guard tried to speak, but Reed was already there, spinning, ducking, slamming his shoulder into the alien's chest and sending him flying into the scanner console. The room went black. Red emergency lights flickered. From behind the smoke, Reed stepped out, calm, breathing steady, like a man walking through a rainstorm. Dr. Kaur and the other scientist stared in terror as Reed glanced at them and smiled. "I don't enjoy killing," he said, voice calm. "But every time one of you threatens me, my body doesn't give me a choice." He took the dead guard's badge and held it near the locked door. It opened with a hiss. "Next time," he added, turning back slightly. "Study your enemies before you try to dissect them." Then he disappeared into the hallway, and the hunt continued. Deep in the research bay, Dr. Kaur locked the doors behind her. Panic made her hands shake as she replayed Reed's escape footage again and again. She had to understand what they were dealing with, because what she'd seen wasn't just instinct, it was evolution. She ran Reed's DNA through the ship's master database, comparing it to hundreds of known species, predators, soldiers, apex killers from across the galaxy. The result came back with a red warning. Unclassified threat response detected. Advanced survival mode. Auto-triggered. "What are you, human?" she whispered. The screen showed everything. His nervous system overloaded pain limits. His heart adjusted to shock. His brain rerouted fear into strategy. "He doesn't ignore fear," she whispered. "He uses it." Then came the most terrifying part. Kaur found a genetic switch buried in Reed's code, a chemical response sequence no other species had. When threatened, it didn't just release hormones, it reprogrammed his body in real time. Faster reaction, shorter hesitation, higher aggression, built for chaos, built to win. "This isn't training," she said aloud. "It's built into their blood, a survival engine designed over centuries." She looked around at her fellow scientists. None of them spoke, because now they understood the truth. Humans weren't dangerous because of their weapons or armies. They were dangerous because they didn't need them. Commander Varl was done waiting. The alien captain stood on the bridge, seething with embarrassment. A single human had escaped, taken out 6 of his best guards, and now moved freely inside his own ship like a predator in a zoo. "This ends now," Varl growled. "Sir," his advisor warned. "He's not a normal—" Varl cut him off. "He's flesh and bone. He bleeds like anyone else." Moments later, they found Reed in the engineering bay, calm, unarmed, and sitting cross-legged on the floor like he was meditating. But the second Varl entered, Reed opened his eyes. "I was wondering when you'd come," he said flatly. "You're cornered," Varl barked. "You've embarrassed my crew. This is over." Reed didn't move. "No, Captain, you just made your worst move." Varl stepped forward and drew his plasma blade. "I should have killed you the moment you boarded." Reed's expression didn't change, but his body did. His fingers twitched. His breathing slowed again, then crack. In a flash, he was behind Varl. The alien's blade dropped to the ground. Reed had his arm twisted at an impossible angle, the sound of shattered bones echoing in the bay. Screams erupted from the nearby guards, but none dared fire. Reed leaned in close to Varl's ear. "You don't threaten Earth," he whispered. "You don't threaten humans, not without bleeding for it." He let the captain fall. Varl collapsed to the floor, moaning, humiliated. From the shadows, a young alien officer whispered, "He's not defending himself. He's teaching us." And still, no one dared move, because they all saw it now. The human hadn't been fighting to escape. He'd been giving them warnings. The ship's internal comms crackled with panic. All units, humans sighted in lower decks. "Avoid direct contact, I repeat, avoid contact." Too late. Reed moved like smoke through the corridors, one step ahead of every squad. Every time they thought they had him trapped, he vanished. Every time they blocked a route, he found another. He wasn't running. He was dismantling their warship from the inside. In the ventilation systems, he rerouted oxygen away from the security wing. In the weapons bay, he locked out their firing controls. In the engine core, he redirected power to the prisoner cells and released them. The prisoners didn't attack. They watched him in silence. They saw what he was. Not a man, a response. Back. In the command center, Varl, his arm now in a sling, shouted at the guards, "Why can't you stop one human?" Dr. Kaur, pale and shaking, finally answered, "Because every time we try to contain him, he grows stronger." His biology responds to threat like a system update. He learns faster, reacts faster, adapts instantly. One of the guards looked at the screen in horror. Reed was moving straight toward the weapons vault. Alone. "We've created the battlefield," Kor said quietly. "He's just taking control of it." On the screen, Reed paused, looked directly at the nearest camera and smiled again. Not because he enjoyed this, but because now they were the ones being hunted. The alien high command was done watching. A message from orbit arrived in a sharp, digital tone. "Deploy reinforcements. Eliminate the human." Within an hour, a second warship docked with the damaged vessel. Its elite combat unit, taller, stronger warriors bred for war, stormed aboard. Their armor was thick, their weapons pulsed with ion energy. They had faced species that melted steel and cracked moons, but none of them had faced a human like Reed. The reinforcements spread through the holes, scanning for life signs. Then the lights went out, one by one. "I don't like this," one of them muttered. Then a scream, a flash, another soldier, gone. They regrouped, fired in all directions, nothing. "He's not engaging," said the squad leader. "He's stalking." And then Reed struck. He used their own weapons against them, moving with brutal precision. Every blow was calculated, every strike efficient. He broke helmets, crushed armor joints, used shadows as cover. He had studied their combat style in minutes and turned it into their downfall. Down in the prisoner cells, the other captives listened to the sounds above them. Plasma fire, screams, silence. One alien whispered to another, "They brought war machines to catch him." The reply was a shiver. "They didn't bring enough." Reed stood alone on the bridge, boots wet with smoke and sparks. Every alien who had tried to stop him was now unconscious, broken, or running. He didn't want blood. He wanted control. And now, he had it. He tapped into the ship's comms. "Let's see who's really listening," he said. Outside the ship, space rippled. Then it appeared, an Earth warship, massive, silent. Its black hull reflected no light. It didn't need to. The alien reinforcements scrambled. Panic spread across both ships like a virus. Then a message came through, calm, sharp, and female. "This is General Imani of the Terran Defense Fleet. You have captured and assaulted a human citizen. Release him, or we will consider your fleet hostile." Inside the alien bridge, Kor's hands trembled. "They found us," Reed smirked and replied on the open channel. "No need, General. I'm already driving." General Imani's voice cracked with amusement. "Of course you are." On every alien screen, Earth's symbol lit up. The message was clear. Humans didn't abandon their own. They didn't forget. And if provoked, they responded together. One alien soldier dropped his weapon. Another stepped back from his console. "We didn't just capture a human," Kor whispered. "We awakened Earth." The alien commanders scrambled to send a surrender signal. All across the ship, weapons were dropped. Shields powered down. Engines went cold. On every deck, terrified aliens raised their hands or dropped to their knees, but it wasn't enough, because Reed had already finished the fight. In the war room, Commander Varl, face pale and bruised, shouted into the comms, "This is a diplomatic surrender. We are standing down. Do you hear me?" Reed stepped onto the bridge and answered without emotion. "Now you want peace?" Varl stammered. "We were misinformed. We didn't know what your kind was truly capable of." "That was your first mistake," Reed interrupted. "The second was thinking fear would keep us down." He walked up to the command console, deactivated the ship's outer weapons with a single swipe, and opened the docking bay. General Imani's voice returned. Calm, cold, final. "We received your surrender, but understand this. Earth doesn't forget what you did. Every scar, every threat, every test. Outside, Earth's warship powered its main cannon. Not to fire, but as a message. You came to study us. You thought we were animals in a cage. But now you know, humans don't freeze when threatened. We evolve. We answer. We win. The two ships floated in silence, one scarred by chaos, the other untouched. Inside the alien vessel, Reed stood at the center of the bridge, surrounded by stunned officers who no longer dared to speak. He didn't gloat. He didn't shout. He simply looked at the stars. Behind him, Dr. Kaur approached slowly. "Why didn't you kill us?" Reed turned. "Because that's not what humans do, first." She swallowed hard. "But you could have." "I still can," he said. "But now you'll tell every species you work with what you saw here. Not a soldier, not a monster, just a man. Pushed too far." A message came through from General Imani. Extraction ready, docking in 2 minutes. Reed glanced back at the view of Earth's warship, hovering, watching, silent like a shadow that could become a storm. "They'll think this was war," Kaur said quietly. "No," Reed answered. "This was a reminder." He stepped onto the shuttle ramp, paused, and gave one final warning. "Next time, we don't send one." As the shuttle took off, the aliens stood frozen, not by defeat, but by realization. Humans didn't just fight back when threatened. They changed, they adapted, they became something you couldn't control, and that's why the war never happened. Because the galaxy learned you don't start fights with Earth unless you're ready to finish none of them.